Be facing some serious legal issues. Folks, I am Link Austin. I'm sitting in for Gary Franchi, and this is the Next News Network. Stacey Law for Liberty Writers has continued to follow the investigation into Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the IT scandal. Sadly, the mainstream media has not, which is a major reason that we should be paying serious attention to this story. Recent actions by prosecutors in the criminal case against Wasserman Schultz's IT guy, Imran Awan, suggest that they may be bringing other charges in the cybersecurity and theft investigation. In fact, the Daily Caller is reporting that prosecutors are in fact eyeing Wasserman Schultz herself in the latest probe. Wasserman Schultz frantically tried to keep the police from looking at her laptop as part of their investigation. She actually threatened the Capitol Police if they didn't return it to her. She first claimed the laptop was hers, later claimed it was Imran Awan's and that she'd never seen it, and then it was revealed that the laptop actually had her username on it. This is the laptop this week that we learned that Imran had left in a phone booth in the Rayburn building. Investigators were rightfully suspicious because together with the laptop were copies of his ID, a notebook that said attorney-client privilege, and letters to the U.S. attorney. Prosecutors just gave copies of the laptop's hard drive to Imran's attorney in discovery. Imran thus far has only been charged with bank fraud, but their recent actions suggest they may be about to bring charges in their cybersecurity and theft investigation. Imran had access to House Democrats' emails and files during the time he was employed there, before he was banned and arrested. In addition to cybersecurity breaches in our Congress, prosecutors are investigating a possible theft of equipment and ghost employees. Ladies and gentlemen, it sounds to me as if though Imran Awan may be fearing for his life. And maybe that is in fact why he and his family were trying to escape the country at Dulles International Airport, because look what happened to Seth Rich, who also had information around IT infrastructure in the Democrat circles. Folks, please comment below, subscribe for updates, and if you like what we're doing here, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Explore the links in our description of this video, and please share this report.
At the time of your departure from the FBI, was the FBI able to confirm any criminal allegations contained in the Steele document?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's a question I can answer in an open setting because it goes into the details of the investigation.
There's a lot of questions that still are surrounding all of this. That was the former FBI Director James Comey back in June at a Senate Intelligence hearing being asked about the infamous Trump dossier. Now the House Intel Committee is issuing subpoenas to the FBI and the DOJ. They want to know more about the origin of that document and what it was used for by the FBI. They're reportedly calling on now FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Jeff Sessions to testify if the information that they have requested is not provided. Here now, one of the people leading that investigation, Congressman Trey Gowdy, the House Intelligence Committee. Good to have you here this evening, Congressman.
Thank you.
So they want to see, they want to know, you want to know, and the American people want to know, if this dossier, which was later discredited or couldn't be substantiated at the very least, was used as the leverage to unmask people in the Trump campaign, correct?
Well, was it used to initiate either a law enforcement or counterintelligence investigation? Was that the evidentiary basis that the Bureau used to launch either a criminal probe or a counterintelligence probe? And it's fine if it were, if it weren't, as long as you let me know how you vetted the information in the dossier. So I need the Bureau and DOJ to say either we relied upon it or we did not rely upon it. And if we did rely upon it, this is how we vetted the information before we used it.
I mean, that's pretty significant. You know, you want to understand that if this dossier, and also the generation of that dossier, what did they know about the generation of that, and who was essentially commissioning, who was asking for that dossier, right?
Who commissioned it is important. What's most important to me, I mean, if a friend is capable of telling a lie and an enemy is capable of telling the truth. Who commissioned it is important, but I'm much more interested in whether or not the underlying data was accurate. And the only way to know whether it's accurate is for the Bureau to investigate the sources and the subsources. And then I would think everyone would want to know, did our premier law enforcement agency, the FBI, rely on this document to initiate a criminal probe or in court filings and representations before a court? That is an eminently legitimate question, and I really don't know why it's taken the department this long to answer.
And so Jeff Sessions is now the Attorney General in charge of the DOJ, and he's having trouble getting the answers to this information?
I'd be shocked if it's made it up to General Sessions level yet, but I bet it will shortly, because next week is coming, and that's when House Intel Committee wants either, what we want are the documents. We don't want the drama, but if you're not going to produce the documents, you need to come in person and explain to us why the entity that created the FBI is not entitled to provide oversight over the FBI.
Yeah, and in terms of James Comey, Senator Graham has said that he has to come back. There are things he needs to clarify. What are those?
Well, there is evidence. There's a basis for which to question Director Comey on whether or not he reached a conclusion with respect to Hillary Clinton before he interviewed all the witnesses. There is more than an evidentiary basis that he reached the conclusion before he interviewed her. So it is, again, not illegitimate to ask a law enforcement officer, did you make your mind up before the end of the investigation? If you're ever in a courtroom, the one thing the judge will tell the jury, you cannot make up your mind until the last witness has testified. And the reason for that is the last witness may tell you all the information you need to know. So how you can reach a conclusion before you've interviewed all the witnesses is befuddling, and if that were done, or if it weren't done, Comey deserves a chance to explain it, but Senator Graham deserves a chance to ask the question.
Congressman Trey Gowdy, thank you.
Yes,
always good to have your update on this. Good to see you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
President Trump and his full cabinet are meeting at Camp David this weekend. He's going to get a full briefing on Irma and the federal response from the acting DHS secretary at the top of the hour. Let's bring in Eliana Johnson, national political reporter for Politico. You have to imagine one of the things that the cabinet is going to be talking about is this deal that the president made over the past couple of days and then signed when he got there on Friday over really the objections of his Treasury Secretary.
I was going to say, I have to wonder if they're going to, if Steve Mnuchin's going to be weighing in on that in front of the full cabinet.
Well, we heard he certainly weighed in the Oval Office, so whether or not he continues his objections, we'll see if we get any reporting on that. Doubt that'll be in the readout. Big picture, though, you've got Hurricane Harvey and the pictures that came in and that were splashed across national media really sort of stunned the nation in a way that we haven't seen in a while. Now you have Hurricane Irma coming. Is the president afforded a lot more political leeway in times like this to make these kinds of deals that before may have had a different impact?
I don't really think so. I think the president is under the microscope right now. He performed pretty well and was extremely engaged, particularly for this president, with Hurricane Harvey, and he appears to be tremendously engaged in the preparations for this next hurricane hitting Florida. The other thing I think is interesting is that this cabinet meeting at Camp David, it's really a retreat, is taking place right now. It's reflective of the fact, I think, that General Kelly, the new chief of staff, feels that the cabinet has been underutilized so far in the administration, and he's really trying, you know, like companies do, have bonding exercises. This is not just a cabinet meeting, but also a bonding exercise for the president and his cabinet. He's pushing the president to rely on his cabinet members more, and so it will be interesting to see if we see that happen more often going forward.
One would imagine there won't be any like get-to-know-you ropes courses or other types of bonding experiences at Camp David, other than the beautiful scenery out there. Watching video, just so our viewers understand, from a couple of weeks ago when President Trump went down to meet with victims of Hurricane Harvey there at the shelter in Houston, greeting some of the kids as well. So you say President Trump is under a microscope in some ways, and we're seeing the administration sort of put this narrative out there, that disaster response, these kinds of large, big presidential moments play pretty well into the president's strengths. He can act as an executive. FEMA and the military and DHS and everybody else does exactly what he tells them to do. He has a great relationship with both Rick Scott and obviously with Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. And he seems to embrace that role as the commander-in-chief, the warner-in-chief, and the comforter-in-chief.
He's relatively strong at these made-for-TV moments. His weakness is at being, I would say, the comforter-in-chief and at showing empathy in at big moments like this. That's where we've seen him struggle, but he certainly plays to the cameras and does a relatively good job. And I think what people tend to miss at these things is that the president can't do all that much. These are really, the president's going to Florida or to Texas earlier. They really are television moments, and they're reassurances to the state and to the country that he's active and present, but they're not all that much more than that.
Well, they're also a chance for him to really see the devastation firsthand, for him to show support for the first responders, for him to have the moments that we saw with those kids and interact with people as well. Obviously, there was the sort of the knock that he wasn't quite empathetic enough during his first visit to Texas. His second visit to Texas, though, very high marks for those interactions. Eliana, thank you very much for your insights. A lot more political reporting to come out of this. Obviously, now we have the deal on Hurricane Harvey relief. We'll see if there's going to be a deal for Hurricane Irma relief coming up. Thanks so much.